to the first Sponsor Solution Series presentation of the new year, Insights from the Top, Lessons from a County Administrator on AI-Driven Transformation, presented by Niagara Strategic Partner Knowledge Lake. I'm Johnny Hadlock, the Executive Director of Niagara, and on behalf of our Niagara Board of Directors, we welcome you to today's presentation. Now, before we begin, there's just a couple of housekeeping items and some announcements that I'd like to go over. Number one, today's presentation is being recorded, and the recording, along with our presenter's PowerPoint, is going to be made available to you through our Sponsor Solution Series archive by tomorrow morning. And second, we're going to have a question and answer session at the end of today's presentation. So as we go along, if you've got a question, feel free to just type that into the chat box, and we'll get to it at the very end. Niagara is very grateful for the support of our 2025 corporate sponsors whose logos are shown here on the screen, and I just wanted to call them out and thank them for their support. It's instrumental in helping Niagara achieve our very ambitious mission. Each of our corporate partners have a company profile page on the Niagara website. So I invite all of you attendees here, when you have a few minutes, visit the Niagara website, go check out what products and services these companies are offering to help you in your work as archivists, records managers, and information professionals. Niagara's 2025 events calendar is chock full of excellent professional opportunities, and I encourage you, when you have time, not now, but maybe at the end of today's presentation, to visit niagara.org/events to see what's on tap. So next up after this presentation on Thursday, March 6th, 2 weeks from today, we're going to have another Niagara webinar series presentation. We have to scan what? How a small records program implement an archival scanning process. And then exactly 1 month from today, we've got another Sponsor Solution Series presentation, simplifying the race to AI readiness, why the first mile matters in records management. And that will be offered by Niagara contributor sponsor, Gimel. That's not all. At the end of March, Niagara will be hosting one of our largest virtual events of the year. You should have received an email about it today. It's our 2025 Spring Online Forum, Risky Business, Records Management Supporting Risk Management. This is a one-day virtual event that will be held on Friday, March 28th. It's going to be an excellent opportunity to hear from experts and practitioners as they share real-world stories and actionable insights, best practices for using RIM programs to enhance risk management in any of your organizations. There will be 8 sessions this day, all of which will be recorded and made available to those who register after the fact. So again, after today's event, visit niagara.org/events to learn more and register. And finally, we're getting very excited that registration for our signature event is going to open in just 2 weeks' time. That's right, the 2025 Niagara Annual Conference is headed to Oklahoma City this July. The preliminary program will be released soon, but attendees can already secure their hotel reservations. You can apply for travel scholarships and use our justification toolkit to help make the case for your attendance. All of this information is on the website if you want to go and learn more, niagara.org/annual conferences. Now, we just spoke about a lot of events, and it's because Niagara is all about content, community, and connection. And one of our primary goals centers on providing our members and the broader community with access to high-quality professional development offerings on a regular basis. Now, since this is the first Sponsor Solution Series presentation of the year, I thought it would be good just to remind all of you about the differences that exist between the Niagara webinar series and Niagara's Sponsor Solution Series. So while they're quite similar, there are some differences I want to highlight. For one, the Niagara webinar series is free for members, while this Sponsor Solution Series presentation is free for anybody, regardless of their membership status. Second, both Sponsor Solution Series and webinars are recorded and put in the archive. We have about 18 webinars and about 13 Sponsor Solution Series presentations. But the biggest difference is this: with a Niagara webinar, the content and presentation is curated and offered by our members and practitioners, while for a Sponsor Solution Series presentation, such as today's event, the content here is curated and presented by our corporate sponsors, who are experts in the field and have great knowledge. So this is the main difference, but our events are nevertheless chock full of great information and really helpful to you. Now, with all those announcements out of the way, let's turn right to today's presentation. And first, let me a little bit more about our presenter, Knowledge Lake. So Knowledge Lake, a brand new corporate sponsor of Nagara, is the leading AI-powered enterprise automation platform designed to maximize business impact, streamline workflows, and reduce costs through scalable digital labor workforce. Company's unique 4-in-1 solution combines adaptive intelligent document processing, workflow automation, robotic process automation, and content management into one single cohesive AI-powered platform. It's trusted by over 2 million users and recognized with multiple Microsoft Partner of Awards. And with that, Knowledge Lake is revolutionizing the future of work. And presenting today on behalf of Knowledge Lake, we have Gary Smith, Dave Greenspan, and Todd Sharkey. Gary Smith, he's an executive managing director of Knowledge Lake, where he leads the company's effort providing innovative AI automation and synthetic labor solutions. With over 2 decades of experience in enterprise automation, Gary is committed to driving business efficiency and growth through cutting-edge technology. His leadership has helped Knowledge Lake become a trusted partner for organizations looking to solve high-volume operational challenges and increase their productivity. Dave Greenspan is the Special Projects Coordinator and Manager for Lorain County, Ohio. He's a graduate of Troy University in Alabama, where he earned a degree in business administration and accounting. Dave is a small business owner and CEO of Green Elk Consulting Services, and he holds a leadership position with Atlantic Olympic Broadcasting, Turner Media Consultants, and the PGA Tour Radio Network. And Todd Sharkey is the IT Director for Lorain County, Ohio. But over the last 2 years, Todd and his team have been working on numerous projects to modernize the IT infrastructure for the Lorain County Commissioners. This includes a redesign of the network infrastructure, both wired and wireless, migrating multiple internal domains to Microsoft 365, implementing modern cybersecurity initiatives, and consolidating numerous servers to a VMware platform and storage array. Todd's got 25 plus years of experience in IT, covering a wide range of experience across networking, application development, web development, database and software, migrations, marketing, and leadership. And before he joined Lorain County, he was the director of IT for the Chapel in Akron, Ohio. And that's a large non-denominational church with several campuses. And back in the 90s, Todd was the information system analyst for the city of Akron's engineering bureau. So Todd, Dave, and Gary, we're delighted to have you and Knowledge Lake presenting this important topic today. My friends, the rest of the time is yours, so go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Johnny. Appreciate that the kind introduction, and I'd like to welcome everybody here today. We're very excited that you're spending some time with us to learn about some of the groundbreaking and innovative approaches that Todd and Dave are taking at Lorain County. We really hope you'll find this to be quite informative. Maybe to level set here and kind of set the framework for what we will be discussing, because Knowledge Lake is probably certainly fairly new or new to many of you, and what it is that we do, although it's going to be kind of hard to beat what Johnny just said. Effectively, what Knowledge Lake is driving toward is we are creating what we call a county co-worker through the AI and automation that we produce. So not a replacement, but something that works alongside the human talent that's within the county to make county workers much more efficient, focus on much higher value work, instead of doing a lot of things like in our world, we would refer to it as making humans middleware, going between systems, getting something out of one system, entering it into another. And really what it's doing is it's augmenting human capabilities by providing a lot of the work that humans might ordinarily do that would take time away from them making decisions or responding to asks from other agencies, other departments, taxpayers maybe that are coming in with requests. And it allows a much different approach to how work gets done. So this is really some of what we see as the future of workforces shifting. They'll be comprised of humans. They'll be comprised of what we call synthetic labor, as Johnny had mentioned a little bit earlier. And maybe to put this in perspective and show you something that's actually being done right now, that's why we are joined by our wonderful client, Lorain County. I work very closely with Todd and Dave and enjoy it immensely. To give you just a quick background on some of what we're working on, because there are many things that they're doing to innovate and actually modernize Lorain County's functions. It's very much groundbreaking in my view. They've got years and years worth of records in the Records Management Center, probably not unlike any of you. There's a variety of disparate and antiquated solutions that connect all of the departments together and allow what we would consider to be point solutions of automation to go on. But there's no real kind of hub or integration point where all of the documents are accessible by any division across the county, and nothing certainly that makes it easy to search by or provides even taxpayers with the ability, if they want to come in and get a record, to do that in an easily accomplished manner. Excuse me. So what we're looking at right now as we're starting off the engagement is there are 4 key areas. The Record Center, of course, is core, and that's really the hub, right? That's what feeds so many of the other departments. But clerk of courts, clerk of the board, accounts payable, these are actual functions that we are going to be improving through the utilization of digital labor, or synthetic labor as we call it. And I invite Dave and Todd, is there anything that you guys want to add to that, or maybe that I haven't quite specified that you think is important for the audience to understand? All right, I will take that as a no. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go back and forth between Todd and Dave, and I'll ask them some questions, and this will hopefully illuminate a lot of the reasons behind the work that we're doing together now in Lorain County's decision to deploy a synthetic labor source. So Todd, I think I'll start off with you. And I think I'd like Dave, you to answer this too, because I think you'll both have unique perspectives on this. What drove Lorain County to change how records management was occurring and the workflow that's involved around them with the various constituencies like the clerk of courts, clerk of the board? What's driven this change?
Well, I think that's a really good question for Dave, and I think it started with him in Maryland and the Records Bureau. So I'll let Dave take the first shot at it.
That's great, Todd.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. You guys can hear me? We're good?
Yep. We're good.
All right, good. Yeah, so when I came on board with the county about 18 months ago, one of the big issues that we were facing then, and we're still facing now, is how do we effectively store and retain, and how do we retrieve archival data? And as Gary alluded, you saw one of the previous slides, our county is not unlike many in that we are woefully behind in doing a lot of electronic record management, not only storage, but the ability, obviously, to archive. So when Marilyn started in her role, just before I came on board, she was raising this issue, and we were looking for a solution because we have some statutory requirements that we have to abide by as it relates to records management. And so we started looking for a solution that would meet the needs of where we are, and recognize we're one of the largest counties in the state of Ohio as far as population is concerned. But we, like many other governmental agencies, are restricted in our budget, right? Our budgets are coming to us through, the generosity of taxpayers, and I say that with all seriousness because we are responsible to them. So we've got to find a fiscally responsible way to achieve the statutory requirements in a manner that is very easy to administer and operate and manage. And so the old way that we were doing it, and Gary knows this by his time here, is very archaic. And if we were to be up to date on our records management, would be very labor intensive. So we're looking for a solution that works operationally and financially and meets the statutory requirements that we have. and Knowledge Lake, won the show. They won the opportunity to do that for us here in Lorain County, and we're excited for that opportunity. On the technical side, I'll defer to Todd on that as far as how the nuts and bolts works. But fundamentally, we were looking for a solution that would help us reach the statutory objectives within our financial goals, and would allow us the opportunity to meet the demands of the various constituencies in the county.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Dave. I think that's excellent. Todd, I think you're going to have an opportunity, a couple questions forward from here on the more on the technical nature of things. So
the other thing is that goes along with that. We currently still put all of our information on microfilm for permanent records, and the ability to get that technology today is getting smaller and smaller. We're having a hard time, getting film. We're having a hard time getting any of the stuff that we need to keep those systems working. So we needed to come up with a way of moving forward for the organization as well.
Yeah, that's a great point, Todd. And I know it's not even getting those materials right to develop the microfiche, microfilm. It's also then the constant upkeep of being at the right temperature, the right humidity, because as I learned when I was with you all for the last year, if you walk into a room and it smells like vinegar, you've already lost much of the film.
Right.
Yeah. Very, very costly. That's great. What is it in this approach that's important, and why would both of you suggest that other counties follow suit in what they're doing, maybe in some of the modernization efforts that are going on out there? Todd, you want to lead off, and then we can go back to Dave?
One of the things that I really liked about the Knowledge Lake system is that you guys offer two possibilities, which is one, we host the data on our SharePoint site, and then the Knowledge Lake app sits on top of that and does all of its work through our SharePoint. So it allows us to maintain our own data set. One of the biggest problems that we have in government is putting this data out there with another organizations. With cybersecurity and risks involved today, we've had a number of organizations getting hit with cybersecurity attacks and different things like that, and losing data, not because of anything we did and our problems, but because that corporation got breached and ended up getting ransomware and causing us problems with some of our departments. So that was one of the biggest things that I liked about putting this going forward with Knowledge Lake, was the ability to keep that data on our SharePoint site, which then I can control the backups. I can control to make sure that that data is housed properly. But also, no offense, Gary, because I think you guys are one of the most forward-thinking companies. But also, if there's something that comes up where there's an issue and we have to split ways, we have our data.
Right.
We lose the Knowledge Lake capability, but it's our data. And
that's right.
We have a number of departments. Our clerk of courts is one of the big things that she always worries about is, do we have our data? Do we keep it? And so that's a big concern with a lot of the software that we utilize and things. So that was one of the benefits that we liked with going with Knowledge Lake, is that flexibility with what we had.
Yeah, that's great, Todd. Thanks. And we'll never part ways. We're
right. No.
Yeah.
Dave, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, so I would. So one of the great things, with this platform and the way we're going to use it is the ease in the ability to index, and which obviously leads to the ease in retrieving the data. And I'll give you a kind of a forward-thinking concept that, and now in my new role of managing community and economic development, one of the units underneath me has to do with grants and grant writing and compliance and things like that. That's a very, very labor-intensive process in itself, very manual in a lot of respects. But here's what happens: we'll get a file, and it'll may even be a standard box as an example that we've been compiling this data and manually retrieving it while we're working on it. And then when we're done, we send it to the archive center, and then somebody there has to index it, electronically scan it, and it gets archived. What we're going to do is, we're not in this phase, in phase 2, is have access in our offices here in the grant and compliance unit, where they're going to actively scan that information as they receive it, which will then lead right into the archiving component. So it immediately goes from being a scanned document as it's being worked on, and as the case moves through the process and then closes, that information's already archived in the system. So what'll happen at the end of the day is that box will just need to be stored at the record center for its statutory period of time, insofar as we maintain the actual physical copy, and state law and federal law requires certain time periods for that, as you all know. But the actual process of scanning it would have already been done, not with the record center staff, but by our operational administrative staff as they're using the information. So that, to me, is a huge benefit to how we're going to be able to, on a going forward basis, scan and store and retrieve data. And that, to me, is an exciting component of this relationship.
Yeah, I like how you put it the other day when we were talking, Dave, that it takes the requirement of cataloging and doing all the records away from the records department having to do all that work, to now we're getting it at its source. And so that's going to save us a lot of time and effort, because since it's coming from the source, you know, that information has a better chance of being correct and getting into the area it needs to be. And then also, what I loved about Knowledge Lake, Gary, was the fact that we can apply those record retention requirements on those documents right then and there. And also, rather than records being the one required to do all of that processing, it immediately goes back to the original source organization, such as clerk of courts, and says, hey, this record is available for destruction. Do we need to save this, or do we need to destroy it? And it really puts the power back distributes that requirement across the organization and streamlines a lot of those efforts.
Yeah, those are, Todd and Dave, those are great points. Thanks. And that's one of the things I was very excited about in this project is just what you're describing, right? The sunshine laws, the RC1, RC2, RC3, Dave and Todd, as you both were describing it, that will, you'll be up to the minute in terms of compliance. If something changes in an RC2 and you can now destroy the document 2 years earlier than you thought, the system will be seeking for those changes. So you're right. And we're really, really excited how, again, you guys are just looking very forward in your approach to how you're managing what's going on.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great stuff. I can, for some reason, there's always, we were discussing this, in fact, here we go. Now it finally moved. I think my computer must think it's Monday.
Yes.
So were the elected officials supportive right out of the gate? Any tips or points or things to be aware of that you guys both might want to share with the audience? Because I know that can be, having them as sponsors is critical, right? That's the beginning and the end of the game, really.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the presentation as to how what the value proposition here is, right? So in my past and current life, I also serve as an elected official, and I understand how that presentation is important. And once again, being custodians of taxpayer dollars, as the commissioners are, and as Todd and I are as employees of Lorain County, is we are very cognizant of how we effectively utilize our resources, both financial resources, capital resources, and human resources. And so all three of those components come into play in this decision and getting the elected officials to be supportive of this. And you could take each of those independently, or you could take them collectively. If we take it independently from a human resource perspective, we all recognize that we're in a workforce shortage environment right now, and especially in the government sector for various reasons. And so by us being able to automate, get into the capital side, the capital asset side of the equation, yes, we're putting forward some financial resources to obtain some capital assets, both being hardware and software. But we're able to do it in a much more effective way because we're utilizing technology to our advantage and utilizing our minimum scarce human resources to help achieve the objective of creating an archival system that meets all the requirements, federal and state requirements, but at the same time is user-friendly, right? So folks need to retrieve the data, and that could be external and internal constituencies, right? So internal could be, in my world, in the community economic development world, anybody in my space that needs to get access to that data has easy access to it. And the same way with external users being the general public, if they're looking for a specific archived piece of information, this system will make it easy to achieve that objective. The electeds understand that because at the end of the day, government is nothing more than a support service agency. We are to provide a service to the constituencies that we serve. This gives us the ability to do that in an effective way. That's the easy sell, in my opinion, to elected officials.
Yeah, that's Dave. Thank you. That's great because and I had noticed it even when I would follow on the Friday committee meetings when the board was assembled. It just felt like such a robust dialogue. They were very engaged,
Yep.
and it was, and I think in certainly no small part to the work that you all were doing behind the scenes in making sure they were up to speed on what the benefit and the value proposition would be. But yeah, that's excellent. Todd, anything that you wanted to add to that?
No, I think Dave covered that pretty good. Other than the fact that, just, the whole idea was if we got to go back and scan all this information, we're looking at over $3 million to do it in, a number of years. And that's a lot of money. But
Yep.
then also at the same time, I would say we needed something that was forward thinking that would bring us not just scan the past, but how do we use it in the future? As Dave was given the example earlier about the how we're going to use it in the departments. I think that's the key there as well.
Yeah, that's a great point because you're right. I mean, when you've got a scan, great, you've got the file, but what happens with that? How do you find that information? And where ultimately does that information reside in the work that the people are doing, right? And
Yep.
what if that doesn't need to be done anymore by humans shuttling from one system into another or looking at an image or going and retrieving something, and 20 minutes later, they still really haven't done the work portion of it. You're right, and to me that was just when you were expressing that to us through the entire process of discovery, it just was to me it was just such a great thing for you guys to be removing as a barrier for the workers that are actually touching this every day, make it more efficient. Yeah, that's great. So what would you recommend to a county that's considering this type of I guess I'll call it I kind of drink our own Kool-Aid, as you both know, with all the time you spent with me. But what would you say to a county that's considering this type of a digitally approached or AI-based transformation? And Todd, I think I'd like to lead with you first on this because you have a very different perspective than Dave in the sense of the technologist point of view. And I appreciate both of your different perspectives. But I think there may be some common linkages from a technological perspective that some of the folks in the audience might want to hear.
Well, one of the big things is both Dave and I have been looking at how can AI improve our efficiency? How do we use it strategically? How do we move forward? And I really feel that a knowledge lake is definitely one of those areas that can greatly transform an organization. The thing that I really liked about again, Gary, you guys really make it more of a partnership. We're working together to get these things done. Was the idea of that we could start out with 4 departments. We're starting out with records, clerk of courts, clerk of board, and our accounts payable processing. And we're working through those 4, and then next year we're adding 4 more, and then the year after that we're going to add 4 more. So it's a 3-year process to get the first 12 departments in there. But also at the same time, we can easily add, because of using the software, I can go in and we can add Dave's group into this process without having necessarily to engage with you guys, because of how we're doing the partnership moving forward. It's not just, hey, here, let's help you set this up. Here's what you got to do. We got to set it up. You do all the setup, and then we just start using it. No, you're actually training us during the setup process right now. We're going through, and I think this is really going to be helpful, because I can now go in and tweak a process if we need to change something. I can go in, and then it gets us thinking, because we're involved in this. We started thinking about, well, the clerk of courts, they receive their documents sometimes now. They're going to be required here in the state of Ohio to start receiving those electronically. Well, we've never done that in the past. We've always done all these things come in a paper format. They have to be submitted there. Now the clerk of courts is working on accepting these in email. So what we can do, working with you guys, we can put this in this email to immediately go into Knowledge Lake and start the process right through Knowledge Lake and get that process going. It goes to the clerk of board, but also at the same time, one of the things that they're being required to do is as soon as they get a submission from a law firm or somebody, they have to put it out there for public records. Well, this process, we're going to be able to process that, develop a web page that will then immediately be able to put us into that. Now, again, we haven't gotten to that point yet, but that's where we're thinking. That's how we're moving this forward. That knowledge with the process and how you guys have developed this will really give us that ability to move forward. The other thing that we really liked was the ability, when you scan something in, the AI processes the document. If there's any kind of issue or error with that document, it immediately flags that document to be reviewed by a human.
Yeah.
And it flags out where that information, what's missing, what's wrong, and it allows us to easily go in and find that error, fix where that was. And that, Gary, the coolest thing was, when we were doing that demo, and I asked your guys, okay, prove to me you didn't just like fill that information in. And he goes, well, let me show you how this works. He clicked on the field, turned on the the spotlight. And you could actually see on the document where it was pulling that information from. So you could then say, well, I don't want that date. I want the due date of when this is due. So I need this date. So I could change, using, again, common language. I could go in and change where it's pulling that date from that invoice or whatever we're processing. So it's really going to help us standardize all that. And then when you start adding in that large language model concept with AI, I no longer have to worry about searching by metadata. I can now do a full text search on a document and find out exactly what I need. So if I've got a plaintiff, or if I've got, I want to know all of the information that a certain law firm has submitted into us, I can go in and find that information out quickly and easily.
Yeah. Those are, Todd, those are just such great points. And you sum that up so elegantly, because it's a big topic, right? We're getting right underneath the very structure of the data that runs the daily operation of multiple county functions. And yeah, that was beautiful. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Dave, anything that you wanted to comment on in that?
Well, I think I might have summarized it in my previous statement as to the value of what we're trying to do here. Once again, it's scarce resources, or financial, operational, and human capital resources. How can we best use it? Use those scarce resources to achieve the statutory goals and obligations that we have, and at the same time be constituent friendly, internal and external constituency. So, and looking at the question and how would I recommend to a county? I think if you summarize it in those key components, it becomes an easy sell. on the surface. Obviously, when you get into, once again, we're dealing with scarce financial resources, that I think would probably be the only pushback you could possibly hear from on this subject, because the goals and objectives are very clear. Sometimes they're statutorily driven, sometimes they're operationally driven, sometimes they're visionary driven. But at the end of the day, identifying those resources is really important. And so, once again, I don't think it's a hard sell at all when you're talking about moving this forward and why consider this and what the electeds may think.
Right.
The bigger challenge, as we all know, has to do with the scarce financial resources.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Thank you for that, Dave. I appreciate that. And that's a nice summary. Let me seem to have whoops. Did I go by? Sorry. There, it did go. Of course, Johnny had said to me that we
It's
would.
delayed on your end.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, Todd. I think it's just a little slight delay. So what I think you guys have probably covered this pretty thoroughly, just based on some of the discussion that we've been having through this. So I guess I'll open it up to both of you. Were there any characteristics, or were there any things that you thought came to the forefront of mind that we haven't covered that you want to cover here in terms of choosing a technology partner? Because I know you had a very, very in-depth process, and it was just a very fair-minded process. I always felt like I was apprised of what was happening. We were, everyone was equally welcomed, and I really loved and respected that. But anything in particular that either of you can think of that we haven't covered that you want to mention here, maybe?
Well, for me, I would just say you made Marilyn happy.
Okay.
As the director of handling all those records,
Right.
She always had a smile on her face after we were done meeting, thinking about this has some really good possibilities. So, as an IT director, when the end user looks like that, is excited about using a product, and that makes it easy for me to give it a thumbs up from the IT side of things. But also at the same time, when I'm looking for somebody to work with, I want somebody who's not just interested in selling us a product, but selling us a solution to our problems. And I think that's what you guys spent a year with us, and that was really appreciated, that you guys kept coming back and saying, and coming up with, this is how we could do this, this is how we could do this. And then we worked during 2024 to really get us kicked off for 2025 to move forward with this solution. And I think that was huge, because I look for good relationships with my my vendors, and the partnerships that I want, and I think you guys nailed that one really well.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. I appreciate that, and we feel the very same way. Right. I just think there's always been a meeting of the minds across everybody. You mentioned Marilyn, and she's just a great collaborative partner, right? And she sits down, she tells me exactly what she needs. If we're a little bit off base, she says, no, this, not that. And that does, for us, in fact, it's kind of a two-way street, right? Because there's characteristics we're seeking with who we want to work with, and just across the board, Mr. Armbruster, both you and Dave, Marilyn, Kate, Teresa, it's that's wonderful. Let me, because I know we're probably getting, I don't want to, I'm not sure how we stand on time, Johnny. I don't want to go over here, but so in the end, how did you guys ultimately decide on selecting us?
Well, from my perspective, I would say, one, you had Marilyn. Marilyn was really behind it, and that was huge. She kept the engagement going on everybody's end. She was kind of that catalyst, and that's what you need too, is somebody in your organization that can be the catalyst. Because the IT department, for me, I had multiple projects going on, and I know Dave had multiple projects going on. And, so Marilyn just did a tremendous job of helping us stay focused on what our ultimate goal was, making sure that you guys met what those goals needed to be. And then that worked out perfectly. So I would say, having somebody on our staff that helped make sure that you guys were meeting what our requirements were. And then, myself being able to look at things technically, and Dave looking at things from that financial standpoint and that resource side too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Those are great points, Todd. Dave, I would like to come back to you on that because,
Yeah.
As Todd mentions, and as you've said previously during this discussion, there were a lot of things that made it a very, very easy decision, right? Because you do the math and we're going to be more efficient. We're going to move away from doing things in a way that, don't reflect how things could be done in a more modern way to make our workers, we got a small pool of workers. How do we give them a force multiplier, right? Was there anything in there that as you guys were kind of working through this that you just saw as like what we call in our world work waste? It's where you see a lot of people spending too much time on one particular task that can be automated. Was there anything like that came up in any of the evaluation that you were doing to build the business case?
Well, and Todd hit it right on the head. Marilyn was really the driving force because she lives and works, lives and breathes this every single day, right? So she is new to the role and came in and realized that the same old processes were not working, and so she really deserves a lot of credit for advancing this subject. So we did meet with, and there's several companies who are in this space, and I'm not speaking ill of others, but you really listened to what our needs were, right, and focused on those and didn't oversell other products that you may offer. To be honest with you, I didn't hear anything other than what we were asking you to provide us with a little vision as to where we could grow. Whereas from others, we heard almost this is an ancillary product and we want to focus you on something else. So I know I appreciated the directness of your evaluation, not only of listening to what we thought we needed, but then you came to us and said, look, yes, we see that as a need. We can enhance your efficiencies in these areas, and allowed the discussion to happen as to how we may be able to use this in other applications, like I'm talking about here in community economic development.
Yep.
You didn't try to sell us some other product that you offer, which as any of us that are on this this string right here would attest, overselling is a horrible thing when you've got limited resources and a focused vision on what you wanted to do. So I would say to your credit, your organization's credit, you were very attentive to our needs. You listened to what we needed. You addressed our specific needs, which allowed us to advance the relationship. So I think that was, how did we ultimately decide to go with Knowledge Lake? I think it was a combination of those types of discussions, the vision and strategy on your part, and our ability, once again, through Marilyn, who coming new into a role, knew the ultimate objective. None of us really knew a whole lot about how to get to the end. We knew what the end needed to be, and you helped us in a very clear, concise, and direct manner get us to that, what we believe to be get us to that goal and objective.
Yeah, that's great feedback. Thank you for that, Dave. I think we have, guys, we've got our first questions. It's in the, so maybe we have Jessica West, and does anything from the county records feed does anything from the county records feed into a large language model? How much of a challenge was working within county security requirements? Do we want, Todd, is that?
I can answer this one.
Yep.
The thing that was the other thing that we liked working with you guys is this doesn't flow out into public information. The data sits in our SharePoint repository. And then what happens is the Knowledge Lake AI sits on top of that and only sifts that information to us. Unless we open up a link to say a public interface, that is only an internal data set. So it doesn't go out to ChatGPT. It doesn't go out to any of these other systems, which is really nice, which was another thing that we liked about the security model, is that it puts AI, but yet it just sits on our data.
Yeah.
It doesn't work with these, it's not putting it out there so that anybody can search it. It's just right there for us. It's totally internal.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Todd. Right. We're not using the inferences or sharing any of none of that, because it ultimately impacts the performance for your data sets and your workflows and what it is that you're trying to accomplish.
And the other beauty of it is, since we're doing it on SharePoint, we can utilize our existing security structure that we have in place. So if somebody doesn't have access to this information now, they won't have access to it when they do the search. So it doesn't just dump back everything. Let's say a good example is we're going to add HR into this at some point. Well, all those scanned documents from HR will only be accessible by HR. So when they do go into Knowledge Lake and do a search for certain information on HR, that, like, say they want to see all the personal records for Todd Sharkey, they could do that search, but they're only going to get back what they're allowed to get back related to that search. They're not going to be able to go in and see, I had this disciplinary record or that discipline, or this thing, or stuff like that. They're only going to be able to see what they see. So even internally, there is security in place that helps prevent certain people from being able to get, the wrong people from getting the information, which is really nice. That's again, that was another one of those selling points. So that was a great question.
Yeah, excellent question. Let me just see one thing here. I wasn't sure. Oh yeah, I'll come back to that. Maybe I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Jessica, thank you very much for that question. I see your thumbs up, so I think we've answered that one. I'm going to do one thing real quickly. I had a
while you're doing that, that just going along with that security, that was also too one of the biggest things that our clerk of courts was really concerned about, because how do you redact information? How do you go through and make sure that certain information is gone? Or if somebody's record is expunged, how do we make sure we can get that expunged? So a lot of those questions came up during the this initial discussion, and how we can utilize some of that stuff, and record retention and keeping everything backed up. So we looked at a lot of that, and you guys, you fit exactly right in there with, again, why I liked this, because it sat on top of our SharePoint system. And so then we can utilize our enhanced security already with our Active Directory. Everything we need is right there. It just works really well.
Yeah, great points, Todd. Thank you for that. I did get another question here, and I think, Todd, this may be more oriented to you, because you're right in the middle of things right now with us, actually, with our deployment team and our delivery guys. How have you found the adoption of working with Knowledge Lake by your staff to be going?
Can you repeat that again? I didn't hear
Yeah. Oh, that's okay. Sorry. Hopefully I'm not breaking up here. How have you found the adoption of working with Knowledge Lake by your staff to be going?
We're right now, we're in the information gathering. We're starting to develop some of our processes. You guys have been tremendous, very hands-on in the discovery part. We've had a number of Teams meetings that, sit down and look through the spreadsheet, look through the the documents that we're trying to get, what kind of metadata are we looking to capture right off the bat when we scan these documents in, and start, already got us working on starting to think about how we flow this information in and taking care of all that. So far, everything's going really well. Again, you guys are very attentive to what we need. All the meetings have been very good. I think we're getting ready for Napoleon to come on site.
Yep.
And help him get, now that we've got the information gathered, he's going to come on site and start looking through that and sit down and work with us on how do we get this to flow, how do we get this information in, and then we can start doing some test documents. We're all ready for that. And there's a lot of excitement for what this can do because we see the potential. You guys have been tremendous with doing, constant working through some of the, taking some of the documents and saying, here, let's test this through the demo. So you put together a little demo how this could work, and then we can then start incorporating that same concept into the production side of things. So I couldn't be happier with how things are going so far in our implementation phase.
No, that's excellent. Thank you for that, Todd. I also did get another question, and Dave, I think this one goes directly to you. It says, what key metrics or success indicators will Lorain County establish to measure the impact of the AI automation workforce on an efficiency and service delivery basis? So I think they're thinking once this is in production, are you all working through, or do you have like key metrics already in mind that you'll be using to measure the return on the investment?
Well, not to make light of it, but obviously it has to work, right? So
right, there's that. Yes.
The key metrics at the end of the day, is it going to work as well as it was promised, right? And as well as we have the expectation that it's going to be a successful program. How will we gauge success? We are realistic in understanding we have a significant amount of, let's go talk about historical data. We have a significant amount of historical data that needs to be archived, electronically archived. We have an expectation as to how smooth that process is going to take, and somewhat of an understanding as to the labor it's going to take to do that. So we obviously want to make sure that those objectives that we have based on the information we receive from Knowledge Lake is going to be realized. On the outflow side, right? Always talk about constituent users, right? That our constituent users have the ease of access to the data, whether they be internal users, right? As the clerk of courts, as an example, as our clerk of the Board of County Commissioners, will they, and Marilyn at the Record Center, will the internal users have the ease of access that we expect them to have? And the same, which obviously is going to be how quickly can they retrieve archival data. But at the same time, if we flip the switch to allow external access, will the external users be able to have the quick and easy accessible access that we expect them to have? So the long and short answer to your question, is our expectation is it works as as the contract claims it will work.
Yep. Excellent. Thank you for that, Dave. That was good. And then I do have one more here, and I know that's probably perfect timing because we seem to be coming up on time. Both of you can answer this because I think you're both going to each have your own unique perspective on it. It says, do you think the employees of Lorain County will find that their daily work has improved and be more rewarding? I think I already know one person's answer on this. But,
does her name begin with an M?
Yeah, it does. Exactly right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, yeah, if we can make Marilyn happy, then she tends to bring in more cookies and more treats. So then,
Exactly.
then everybody's happy. So that's always a good thing. The biggest thing is, and it's something in government that is just a pain in the butt, which is the time spent digging through all the information to get to the information you need, and being able to find it. there are files all over the place. And the problem that we have is this person comes in and they structure files one way. This person comes in and they structure their shared drive a different way. So we're, in the process of us moving to Office 365 over the last 2 years is getting to a point where we can streamline all of that. And Knowledge Lake, I think, is one of those key tools that will help us, make it easier and more efficiently. There's so much of the stuff that's in government that is still so manual,
Right.
that our hope is that we bring in an invoice from some vendor and we have to type that information into Oracle. And then that information then also has to be printed on a certain color sheet, taken down to the auditor's office, given to the auditor. We want to automate some of that. We want to streamline that as much as possible. And be able to, as Jeff Armbruster's favorite thing is, let's bring down these silos and get people working together. And we really do think we've got a lot of the other elected officials who are looking at what we're doing with Knowledge Lake and getting excited about what the possibility could be for them.
Yeah. That's great, Todd. And you're right. I always love when Jeff says that about breaking down those silos. And then the thought of like what you're describing is, we used to call it years ago sneaker net. You print something out, you take it down to another department because you didn't have either the right interconnectivity or you didn't have access to the right system. Somebody would take that. Getting rid of that too. You're right. I think that probably improves everybody's work life.
Yep.
Well, I think, Johnny, I think that is all we have for everybody today. I hope everyone found this to be valuable. It's just, if it sounds a little bit like a love fest, I think it is. And I hope we brought a little bit of some of the momentum of what Lorain County is doing and how they're innovating and what we're delivering. Hope we've given some good food for thought for folks out there. I will stop sharing, and I think
Hey, thank you guys. Hey, this is Perry Swift. I just got a text from Johnny saying that his internet went down.
I wondered what happened to him.
Which
Thanks,
is
Perry.
why you see that the Nagara person has disappeared. So I want to thank you guys again. Ohio person, started in local government, have friends in Lorain County, and thank Knowledge Lake for being here. I think it was really great. I really appreciated how you worked in some of that, how to make the case, because I think that often we're afraid to even approach the subject because making the case can be kind of intimidating. So I appreciate it. It sounds like you have a good project, and I can't wait to hear some follow-ups.
Yeah, I can't wait till, maybe a year down the road, we come back and tell you how we were successful and some of the things lessons learned and some of the ideas it's generated, because I think it really has some potential for some innovative ideas.
Yeah. And big value delivery. Well, thank you, everybody. And Perry, thank you for that very much. I think we are wrapped.
Okay,
And
cool.
I hope was everybody able to see that last slide that I had up? There was There was a QR code. Okay, very good. Great. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.